Hello and welcome back. Now we are fast approaching the end of July. We only have one more week to go. How did you get on with all this extreme heat? If you look down at our lawn, some parts of it resemble or look like we've had the Wimbledon fortnight here. Now I have to say, in the main, the garden has coped pretty well with these really hot conditions. Probably for the last week to 10 days now, we have had temperatures in the very high 20s, and just lately up to 39 degrees we saw on our temperature gauge. Now, we haven't lost anything, at least not to the extreme temperatures, but more on that later on in the video. What I have just been doing, just before you came back to me, we just actually picked our first French beans. This is a variety called Cobra. Now, some people let these get really big so the beans swell up, and that's fine. We all have different tastes, but I like them more like this sort of size. So we tried to pick them fairly young. In fact, there's one here that I've missed, look, that I could have picked. Never mind. You've escaped for today. And while we're here at the arch, we'll start with the arch, because I always say here we are at bed one, so let's start with the arch. Now, the curry squash, well, I'm actually starting to wonder now if they're curry squash or whether they're pumpkins. Look at the size of those. Anyway, they're forming really lovely, and there's another one coming here and another one here. So we do have plenty of squash that are coming. Same on the other plant. There's another one here and another one up here. They really are going great guns. And one thing I have learned from this, it's not so much an experiment, it was an idea that we had, but curry squash, definitely great for growing up over an arch. You can see with its tendrils, it's clinging on. I mean, you would really have to pull to get that off there. It's holding itself up. If these fruits get much bigger, we might have to think of a way of making a little hammock for them. But that's the great idea about having this cattle fencing. If we need to make like a little hammock for it to help support it so that this stem doesn't break, we've got something to tie it to. So yeah, really good. Would I grow courgettes to try and go up again? Probably not. They're not really trying to climb. Not really. We've tried to encourage them, but no, they're not really wanting to climb. So they can go back into open ground where we normally grow them. And then, of course, the runner beans. Here they are. You can see they have reached the middle of the arch. In fact, in some cases, they've gone a little bit further. So it's time to snip these tops out, which is a job that I need to do. And regardless whether you're growing them over a tunnel or whether you're growing up A-frames, wigwams, however you're growing them, once they reach the top of those supports, it's generally a good idea to pinch those tops out, because all they do is continue growing and they forget about all this flowering and fruiting, and all you get is the beans where you can see flowers at the moment. But once you take those tops out, these will start to grow outwards and they'll produce more flowers and hence more beans. And the same with the climbing French beans too. We have got some runners on the way, as you can see. So just like the French beans, it's not going to be too long before we can sample some runners. And whenever I get runner beans in my hands or French beans for the first time, it really does remind me that summer is well and truly here. So now we shall turn to bed one. And down the edges you'll remember that we decided to try and plant some squash to grow up and over the pergola that we built earlier in the year. Now the honey boot, that's starting to get a hold now and it's on its way. Indeed, we do have fruits forming, and yeah, there's others starting to come. So yeah, we are going to get one or two fruits on those. The hunter, I don't know why, I guess it's the way they're programmed, but they always seem to be a little bit behind, and then all of a sudden become rampant. But we do have some butternuts that are starting to form, so again we should get fruit on those. And things like the curry squash, they can often be ready long before some of these others, and don't forget squash traditionally is ready around about October time, so we've still got weeks and weeks to grow. This was where we had our new potatoes, Casablanca. You saw us harvest those earlier on, so now that's now waiting to receive its next lot of plantings. We've done quite a bit on succession plantings, so we probably shan't film that. That's a job me and Mrs. W will do this weekend to fill that bed up, but they essentially are a few more brassicas. We want to put some beetroot in there and some turnips, and all these things we've started off over this month, so it's not going to be long before they get popped in there. Now, I don't know what you've found with all this hot weather, but it seems to have sent a lot of things to seed. And you can see we've got 1, 2, 3 carrots there that decide to go to seed. But hey ho, there's a lot of carrots in there, and if they're the only 3 that go to seed, I'm not too bothered about that. Yeah, and we're still enjoying lovely fresh carrots as and when we want to eat them with our meal. So here in bed 2, you'll know, if you're a follower of our channel, that we planted some sprouts right at the bottom of the bed here. Now, they'd been looking absolutely amazing, but as I say, all of a sudden we've had these really high temperatures. And of course, what plants often do if they are getting dry, first thing they do is get rid of some of their leaves. You can see there's some yellowing of the leaves going on. But in the main, really, considering these really high temperatures that we've had, they're looking pretty healthy. We've obviously given them a good water. Once they just settle down and get going again and produce some more fresh leaf, then we'll start to look to take some of these older leaves off that have gone a bit yellow and are decaying a bit prematurely because of the high temperatures that we've been experiencing. But I have absolutely no doubt that these will come through to a good harvest. Now, next door, one of the successes that we had, as I say, we keep talking about these really high temperatures, but you know, the UK hit 40 degrees for the first time ever. And you know, as I say, it was 39 degrees we had on our temperature gauge here. And these plants are really quite small. You know, it wasn't that long ago that you watched me putting these into the ground in the first succession video that we did. And so considering that, we have obviously been helping them on by giving them water. They're looking in a pretty good place. Now, in front of those, as you know, we like to try and use as much space as we can to grow things. This is a variety of spring onion called Ishikura, and that's doing all right. I've still got some of the guardsmen that are in the ground in a different bed that we're using as and when we want spring onions, so I don't need this to be ready yet. But if I did want them, there are some there. They are multi-sown, so I can always pull the larger ones away and use. But certainly by next month and into August, that will be our crop of spring onions. So, bed 3. Now, those of you that are rather eagle-eyed, you'll know that we had our main crop potatoes all in here, and they've gone. Now, the plants were already starting to, you know, keel over, yellow up. They were, you know, they were running out of steam. And a couple of days ago, we came out here and we thought, yeah, they're not really going to do much more. And with all this sunshine that we've had and the heat we've had, you know, they'd actually gone brown, not just a yellowy colour where they naturally died back. They had gone a really brown colour. So we had a little bit of a look around and thought, they're a really good harvestable size, really. So we harvested those and we got three and a half large sacks, the half hundredweight sacks, wasn't it? Full of potatoes, and I'll show you some of the harvest. I'm not going to get all the sacks out again because they're down in the bottom shed and they do weigh half hundredweight. So, but I bought some up just to show you a little bit later. Now, in front of those we had our parsnips. So there you go. we certainly know we're going to get some parsnips. Here's what it's looking like at the moment. But we don't want that yet. We want that to get much bigger. So, if you do see the top starting to come through, it's the same with carrots. You know, just pull a bit of soil up around them, and then you don't get the black shoulders, or green in the case of carrots. Now, we've got plants ready to go in here, and over the next week or so they should be going in there. You can see I'm already in the process of trying to work out the exact height of an arch that's going to go there to put some netting over, because our purple sprouting broccoli is going to go there. Now I did think to myself that I was going to put it somewhere else, but as this has become available earlier to me than I thought it was, because I didn't think we were going to be harvesting these potatoes until well into August, I've decided to put them there because there's lots of room around here, and I'm really glad that I didn't put them where I was going to put them, because if I had done, those small plants, they would have been out in all of this heat and suffering. I generally do like to get them in early July, but I think it was better to keep a hold of those and in the polytunnel where they're out of the way of the really hot sunshine and getting scorched, and they can go in now. It might just delay the harvest when we come to have it next year by, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, but hey ho, rather have nice plants rather than some that have been, rather than have them wilt and die on us. So, bed 4. Now, bed 4, we had our shallots in here, and you saw us harvest those. We've been really trying to use our cabbage, because I've said to you many times that, you know, June and July is the time when it wants to send up its flower stalk. And indeed, if you have a look here, I left this one on purpose. I didn't mean it to go to seed, but I mean, I've left this one on purpose. So I can just show you what I'm talking about. You know, they start to explode, and that's now trying to send up its stalk, ready to make its flowers. So if you have anything that looks like that, you're not going to be eating it. But the great thing is that at this time of the year there is just so much to eat in the garden that, hey, and we did have 12 cabbages in here, so you can see we've, you know, done pretty well. And here we are at bed 5, and this is the most recent bed you've seen, because the last video that we put out onto YouTube was the planting of our leeks, and also in that video we harvested our onions. So yeah, they're starting to cure and dry out so that we can get those into storage. Celeriac, they don't seem to have suffered too much with all this hot weather we've been having, and they were probably the one plant that I really thought was going to struggle, being sort of a bit like celery really, but they're doing all right and don't seem to have had much in the way of ill effects whatsoever. One thing that we did do right at the beginning of July actually was to thin these apples. We've got a couple of apple trees, and it really has been good for fruit this year, and these bunches, they were in 4s and 5s. So we've thinned those down so that there's just a couple of apples that are at each station, and hopefully that we'll get good quality apples and nice size apples. And the tree itself has actually put on quite a bit of growth. It is coming to its 5th year now, so you know, it's starting to become more productive, and now I can start to prune it November time, to start to give it the shape that we want, because we don't want these trees overtaking everything else. We want to keep them to a nice compact shape. One of the things that's really surprised me, aside from the celeriac, is actually the fennel. Now, fennel is renowned for bolting. It doesn't like changes in weather, it doesn't like really hot weather, it doesn't like particularly cold weather. And most years that we grow this, if we grew 10 plants, 8 would bolt and go to seed. But actually, these really haven't, and they're looking really quite good. So, yeah, that's, you know, something that's been a real surprise in the garden. You can also see at the back there the tomatoes, the outdoor tomatoes. They're loving life at the moment because the UK has not been its usual cold and wet self. And yeah, I'm going to get a nice crop on those. Now, one thing that has happened during July is that the sweet corn have decided to burst open, drop their flowers, and actually if we just come down here a little further, you can see that we've actually got cobs that are now starting to form. There's one there, and there's another one now coming here. So yeah, and that seems to be happening to most of the plants, so that's worked, which we are really pleased about. And then we talked about how the tomatoes were loving life at the moment, and the fact that the fennel hasn't really suffered at all during this heat, when it usually loves to bolt, and the celeriac. However, this blackcurrant bush here, its leaves have been scorched. And also the gooseberry, same thing has happened with that. So, as always with gardening, there are some winners and losers. Those plants that don't mind a bit of heat and thrive in it, it is at the detriment of the plants that like it a bit more, as the weather would normally be in the UK. Now, I think it was Claire who asked me something in one of the comments about whether we use shading for the greenhouse, and I said to her, you know, in all the years we've been here, we've actually never had the need to put any shading up. But with the extremes of weather that we have had and these really hot temperatures, we decided we needed to do something to try and reduce the really hot sunlight that is penetrating this glass house. And the other thing is, remember at the start of the video I said to you, yes, some things have done really well, but some things haven't. We, in this glass house, have got the red spider mite. Now, myself and Mrs. W have never had it before. Why it suddenly happened this year, I don't know. Obviously, I know what causes it to happen because I've read about it on the internet. But it seems to have affected the aubergines and the cucumber in here. Whereas in the polytunnel, we don't really have that, and we're still getting cucumbers. The aubergine looks amazing, a lovely sort of nice dark green, which you'd expect it to be. And when this first started happening, we were thinking to ourselves, now, whatever is causing this, is it the high temperatures and, you know, the fact that it's been so hot and we probably haven't watered as much as we should have done, or we're naughty parents to these plants because we went on holiday? And then you go onto the internet, don't you, and you type in what you're finding on your plants, and it comes up with 1,000,001 things that it could be. Right from the end of planet Earth to it could be red spider mite. But why did I need to worry? Because I've said many times to you all, but this channel is absolutely amazing. Not because of us, but because of all of us. And you always come up and within your comments you tell us exactly what you think it is. And one of our subscribers made the comment and said, I see you've got the red spider mite in the greenhouse and on your aubergines. And we did a bit more research into it, and yeah, that's exactly what it is. Everything else is looking very good. Hello, Scylla. Have you come for play? Yeah, so everything else is looking really good. Tomatoes, getting tomatoes on a regular basis now. So you may remember that we tried a new variety of tomato, which is this Sweet Million, and yeah, it's actually quite nice. Actually, it's quite a good tomato. I don't know that I particularly prefer it over the red cherry, but it is a good alternative. And if we suddenly couldn't get a hold of this seed for whatever reason, I'd certainly, you know, really consider turning to that variety. Actually, you haven't seen what San Marzano tomatoes look like before. That's what they look like. And they're a really good variety to use to make, you know, tomato sauces and passatas, things like that, because they don't have the high seed count that the rounder varieties have. So the chilies are doing really well. Indeed, we have got chilies on them. You can see where these dying off, these will start to form chilies now. So yeah, really pleased with that. And yes, all the plants are now starting to come into production now, so we shall have chilies. So I had a comment the other day from Mr. Eastwood, or better known as Squint, and he was inquiring as to how our peppers were doing, and I did say you will see it on the July garden tour. So this is where we're at with our peppers. Yeah, they're doing really well actually. Really pleased with those, and each plant seems to be doing the same thing. And then this is a different variety. So yeah, they're coming on nicely, and hopefully won't be too long before we are able to eat some peppers. Now, the cucamelon. You've seen this one or two times while we've been here in the polytunnel, but this is what the fruits are looking like. So you can pick those. They're really good in your gin and tonic, Mrs. W assures me. But she did say to me we're going to try pickling them this year, so they're not all destined for the glass of gin and tonic. And there we have it. That's the state of play here in our veg garden. I did say to you about the potatoes. This is the Maris Piper, and this is an example of the sort of harvest that we got. As potatoes are, they're all of varying sizes, but they're all of a good size. And when you saw the potato harvest towards the end of June, you've seen the sort of sacks that we use. Well, we got 3 full ones and a half of one out of those. Well, there were 80 plants there. We actually harvested the row that was closest to this tunnel, because you know, we'd planted the potatoes before we actually put the tunnel in place. The tunnel was an idea that came after we'd already planted the potato seed, and we knew we were going to be needing the room. As soon as everything started to grow, the potatoes were stopping anything that was growing on there, so we decided to harvest those as much younger potatoes and enjoyed those. So yeah, from about 68 plants, we got 3.5 sacks of potatoes. And of course, today we had our first pickings of the Cobra French beans. Now, I don't think there's going to be enough there for Mrs. W to have with her meal tonight, but there certainly will be for me. She does get the peas, don't forget. Now, I hope you've enjoyed looking around our garden. Please do let us know in the comments below how your garden has fared if you're a gardener in the UK with these really extreme hot temperatures that we've had. Is there anything you've lost? Have something suffered that maybe haven't suffered here? Because depending on where you live in the UK, some got it hotter than others. I know it's been really hot everywhere, but I know down here we were looking at 40s when I was seeing the weather forecast for the whole of the UK. Some places were only going to get to the sort of mid-30s, which is still hot for this country. But yeah, do let us know exactly how you fared And if you don't garden in the UK and you're watching this channel, and especially if you garden in extremes of weather, whether it be very cold or very hot, again, do join in the comments down below and let us know how you cope with it, because it's probably something that we're going to have to learn to live with and start to cope with and learn how to get the best from our plants. If you are new to the channel and you like what we do and you'd like to subscribe, don't forget to hit the button down below. And we shall see you on the next one.